I am a Harris student, second year. You might not see a lot of me because I'm also a joint degree with the Divinity School. And yes, you might be asking, that's a thing? Is that a real thing? Yes, it is. I am the only one. And in fact, when I met with Kate Chan Biddle, who was the advisor for joint degree students last year, she referred to me as her unicorn. I was one of a kind. And what she actually literally said is that I'm a mythical creature who probably shouldn't exist. I'm not gonna lie, I got a kick out of that. It's kind of fun to bridge conversations that don't belong together, but it's also really nice to have that niche. I can get really territorial over my niche of religion and politics. And so when Ban Ki-moon, the United Nations Secretary General, talking to the Paris Agreement folks, were saying, hey, this is a covenant with future generations. You don't talk about climate treaties like they're covenants. That's spiritual. You call them protocols. You call them something scientific. I was like, Ban Ki-moon, you're getting on my turf. So I actually wrote my thesis for the video school on covenants, claiming back this territory. So this is Oriental Institute type stuff, right? You have two kings trying to make a treaty back in the ancient Near East. And what they're going to do is they're going to take these animals. The lesser king is going to walk right through the carcasses, and he's saying to the greater king, listen, you know I'm giving my word, because if I break my treaty, my covenant, the gods are going to kill me. And that's what happens. This is language you all understand. The lesser king cuts incentives to betray the greater king. But you put in that little covenant curse, now the incentive structure is different. I understand this. So we're going to be working with this definition of covenant, which is it's a intervention into the ways that people and nature, as you want to include the gods, go beyond, are bound together so that the desired collective outcome can be achieved. I think this includes the ancient Near East. I think it includes the United Nations. The question is, how did we get from there to here? So, apologies, Sunday school alumni, we're going to do a little Bible study, get into Torah a little bit, and think about how these ideas have power over us today, and maybe utility for us today as well. We're not evangelizing anyone tonight, don't worry about that. Look at this word Bether. It's the word for the animal parts. This is the word right here. And so Abraham, who's the patriarch of Israel, all of his offspring become the Jewish people. He bethers these animals. He puts them into halves. And God comes in the form of a smoking fire pot, flaming torch that goes between the pieces, promising Abraham, hey, I'm committed to this project of making you a great nation. So here's Abraham's Sunday school style. Here's my kind of sacrilegious God European style. And the same thing happens. God actually takes the role of the lesser king, walks on through, and puts the curse upon himself. It's not the first time in the Bible that God curses himself. Sunday school alumni would know the story of Noah's Ark, where this whole flood destroys the entire world, and God's like, okay, I'm not going to do that again, Noah, and you know I'm giving my promise, because this pretty rainbow I put up here, there's actually a bow and arrow, and the arrow is pointed up to the sky, and it's going to be launched into the heavens. If I break my promise, then it's going to pierce me up in the heavens. You didn't know that, did you? You Sunday school teachers sucked. So, promise is fulfilled in the Red Sea. This is the Exodus narrative. Moses is like, Pharaoh, let my people go. And it's that separating and passing through motion yet again. And the flood destroys just the Egyptian people as they try and get through. The people of Israel are liberated. God fulfills his promise. That's the message of the story. The problem is there's this theological absurdity, which is God, creator of the universe, he has infinite utility. He can't put a curse on himself. How do you know you can trust this? It's a problem that the earlier part of the Bible sets up, and later authors of the Jewish Bible have to figure out. And it's actually the author of the Song of Songs, which is the Bible's kind of erotic love poem. It's got really romantic verses. It's got these kind of saucier innuendo stuff. And it's one of 3 places where that word, Bether, covenant pieces, shows back up again. Song of Songs 2. The woman is speaking to her male beloved, saying, turn, my beloved, and be to me like a gazelle or a young stag upon these mountains. And you think about this motion in the context of an erotic love poem, it means something different. It's getting at this idea that physical intimacy and emotional intimacy can sometimes, not always, can be intertwined. And there's a paradigm shift in saying this is what it means to know that I'm good for my word. It's not because if I break my word, I'm cursed. It's because your joys are becoming my joys. Your pain is becoming my pain. And love is as strong as death. You know I'm good for my word. this image becomes the image of how God relates to the world in the later part of the Bible. This game chart that we have turns into this, where God is the game. Your joy is my joy, your pain is my pain. Okay? So this becomes a model for not just God and human relationships, but also humans and humans. And you see, fast forward a couple millennia, the pilgrims, when they come to America, and they're forming these townships, at the core of each township is a covenant in the form of a document where they write down, like, hey, we're in this together, we want to do life together, we're committed to each other, and that becomes the Constitution after time. In fact, the word federal derived from the word fideus, which means covenant. And I think for those of us who are making policy in the United States, we need to ask ourselves, how do we reclaim this spirit today in our polarized context? One example from TV that I think is going to be really helpful comes from season 7, episode 6 of Parks and Rec. Leslie Knope is confronting the tech bros of Bristol. They want to build HQ2 in Pawnee in this nice nature reserve. And the Parks Department is saying, no, you should donate that land to us. You should build in this industrial park and revitalize the town. And the tech bros are like, okay, but why should we donate the land? Leslie Knope confronts them and says, hey, if you're going to set up shop here, you need to make a covenant with the city. Show that you're committed. And so policymakers of the future, I think we need to go out there and as we do what we do, let's not make policy settling for compromises. Let's go out there and make covenants. Thank you. Right there.
This is awesome. 95 comes from I went to Jewish school, so
Yeah.
great. So thank you. But is there any tradition of this that ancient covenants and other religious traditions around the same time? Because stuff and developments in the Jewish Bible obviously interact with everything around the time.
So the one place where I think I try to spend some time meditating on how to talk about this well is actually in relation to North American indigenous folk. Because often these guys, put the Puritans up there, the Pilgrims, these covenants were used as ways, as tools of colonialism, right? I just suggested covenant as a tool. That doesn't mean it can't be used for evil, absolutely. And similarly, African American folks experienced restrictive covenants, which is part of the redlining project in Chicago, the way that word was used. In the case of indigenous folk, there's been two different reactions. One has been, this is the language of the oppressor, this is colonial language, we need to reject it. Other indigenous folk have said, listen, we know what it means to be in a relationship to the land, to be promised the land, better than these white folk do. We actually have a better understanding of covenant than the ones who came here, and we're going to move that. So there's two different reactions of indigenous folk. I can't speak to the Eastern religions. Certainly covenant is the foundation of different Judaism, Christianity, and also to the Greek Islam as well. So the Abrahamic religions, all that. Good question, thank you.
Caleb,
Hey.
what do you think that public policy can learn from divinity and divinity can learn from public policy?
First of all, the silent pause is a divinity school right there. That also might just fill every awkward silence right with it. I think the thing that policy folk can learn from divinity folk is that we are people of ritual, right? I think a lot of us who have kind of become more cynical about the traditions we grew up in, or these empty rituals and whatnot. You look at a political inauguration, right? Regardless if it's a hand in the Bible or it's just the parade of it all. It's just the robes of the Supreme Court system, the justices are just swearing in the politician. Elections are rituals. Realizing that we are ritualized people and that those things have real power. What divinity people can learn from policy people divinity people think, listen, we study religion, we study God, we got all the answers. And I think there's this sort of prophetic voice that the divinity school has to say, we're going to change it, we're going to do it, and we're right, and it's wrong, so we have an idea. I think the thing that I really value from Harris is rigorous, analytical, empirical thinking. Yeah, that's it.
So at Harris, we have the very useful Harris Toolkit. What does the Divinity School have?
So there's a class I nearly failed at the Divinity School because I am oriented as a policy student to like go and do and change and solve problems. It was our class called Spiritual Care. Our ministry students take it. And it's mostly for people, a lot of my colleagues want to go and they want to be chaplains, right? They want to go be by people's hospital bedsides. They're doing whatever. I was taking the final for that class. It was a scenario where you're writing out what you would do in case of a family where they owned a business, but they were in a car wreck and the woman was okay, but the husband was in a coma. I was talking about all these things, but you gotta like make sure that the employees know, and you gotta make sure the woman knows. And my professor like looked at my thing. She's like, "No one visited the guy who was comatose." And I was like, "Because he's in a coma." I nearly failed that class, and I think that's one of the skills of the Divinity School is learning how to acknowledge the humanity deeply in every language. So,
But
take a class sometime.
it can be reduced to a pithy statement.
So we don't do policy notes. We do 25-page papers, not for your